Hey everybody, my name is Kyle. I'm here today with Mike Maier of Mike Maier Inc. Um, we wanted to make a video to kind of walk you through what's been going on at the shop, um, kind of fill you in on some of the struggles and some of the successes that we've had, and let Mike talk a little bit about what business has been like through COVID and over the past year or so.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm super happy and excited that Kyle took the time to help us out with this video. We watched a video. Actually, Kyle came out and shot a video. What's the deal? A couple months back now, and one of the videos we shot was what COVID was like with our shop. But a little while later, I was geeking out on some YouTube in my own time, and I came across a Santa Cruz bike video, and it was called "Dude, Where's My Bike?" And I watched it, and it was like somebody else in the world, further down the line in business than us, but was experiencing a lot of the same things that we were experiencing. And sometimes you don't know if it's just you or if it's everybody. And it sure felt good to feel like, somebody else was going through a lot of these same things. And so I immediately sent that video to you, Kyle. And then that's kind of what led us here, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess a little bit of background first. You guys may not know who I am. My name is Kyle. I've been working with Mike to sort of help him improve the website, engage with you guys a little bit more on social, just try and step the game up as far as communications and showing you guys, what it is we're working on. So I got to know Mike, what was it, about a year and a half to almost 3 years ago now. Actually, it's been a long time.
Been a while, actually. It was when Vince was working here.
Yeah, way back when. He was the one who wrote up my estimates. I ended up buying a lot of parts through Mike. I've been working on a 66 Mustang coupe.
You got an Apex kit.
Yeah, exactly. I bought the Apex kit before the Apex kit was a thing.
But the cool thing is you did a lot of the work in your garage.
I did. Yeah.
It wasn't like you sent it off to some shop and then it came back.
No. I was out there on my back with, the jack stands, kind of learning by doing and calling up Mike and asking a lot of questions. And yeah, I guess with that in mind, you want to kind of jump into it a little bit and start talking some brass tacks?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, first question, because I think it's on the mind of a lot of people. We know COVID has been difficult for businesses, big and small, over the past year. But we don't really know the depth of that. So why don't you tell me what the last year has looked like for MMI, and some of the challenges that you guys have faced, in terms of getting parts and getting parts to customers?
Well, I think that you actually got to go back several years. I think the first 5 years of owning a business, you think that you're selling parts, you think that you're doing business, you think that you're, doing invoices and things like that. But really the first 5 years of a business is to build quite literally a business. You're doing business to stay afloat, but you're getting things like staplers and drill bits and welders, and you're finding employees. You're sifting through employees, trying to find the right match, especially when you're a small company. So the first 5 years is quite literally making a business. And then when COVID hit, honestly, around here it was really kind of scary because we didn't know if we were going to be able to get welding gas. It was at the end of 20, which already was anemic. And then, and being in Alameda County here in the Bay, it was one of the most stringent counties in the US for controls. All of a sudden the streets were silent. I mean, literally, I was riding my bicycle to work and there was nobody on the road. I could ride right down the middle of the road. It was crazy. And but with business, orders started rolling in. And now you're scrapping and scrambling, trying to get everything pulled together. And maybe this is spring. Maybe this is just springtime, And yeah, at the same time, I kind of made a swing at it, and I decided that we were going to buy a CNC at the end of 19, a mill. And we didn't know how to run a mill. We've been running manual machines. We didn't know how to use any of the G code. We had nothing. We knew nothing. But the hell with it. We're going to do something. We're going to make something happen.
Mhm.
And we started growing a ton with the CNC. We started seeing these sales. And one of the things we did was we started doubling our welding runs,
Mhm.
because if you need more parts, you double your production, because everybody says in manufacturing, do it in bulk, right?
Mhm.
Well, about mid-year, we were expecting summer to kind of fall off, because that's what it does. It never fell off. It just kind of kept going. So the reprieve we thought we were going to get around June never happened. And the surge in spring that we were kind of like, okay, this is springtime, this is what happens. It never stopped. And we were kind of like, oh crap. We thought we were going to have this window of like, of a breather. We don't. And the orders kind of kept rolling. And then what ended up happening was we ended up hiring an office guy, and that's Dylan. He's been great. He's been helping me ship, answer phones, try to help deal with some paperwork. And we weren't sure if he was going to be around forever, because he was out of work because of the restaurant industry. And turns out he's pretty much full time now. He's a major cog in our business now. If it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't have gotten him.
Mhm.
The other thing that started happening was, with this welding, like I was saying, we started producing more and more and more. But if you do 25 sets of control arms, that normally takes you a week to weld up 25 batches of upper control arms, then you're going to weld up 25 sets of painted rod kits. Then you're going to weld up 25 sets of subframe connectors. Then you're going to weld up 25 sets of X braces, then 25 sets of lower control arms. By the time you get to the end of your cycle, it's, let's say it's 2.5 months
Mhm.
to get a complete car for 25 customers, complete suspension kits. We went from 25 back orders to 100 back orders.
Wow.
And then we also, during that time of spring, so we would have 25 jobs like on the board. Now we're sitting somewhere, around 100. And then we're like, oh shoot, well maybe we ought to weld 50 sets,
Mhm.
because that's what you do, right? You increase your numbers. We order more. We you do all these things. And what ended up happening was, we weren't paying attention, that really stupid stuff like that just took it from 2.5 months to 5 months
Hmm.
for a complete cycle. And we started feeling that around month 3, and then customers would call up and they'd be like, yeah, I normally order 8 sets of subframe connectors, say like a dealer. And they're like, yeah, I want to order 16 sets.
Hmm.
And you're like, whoa, cool. Well, shit, our whole production run's gone. Or by the time the people have been waiting, and then this dude comes in and buys the other half, it's gone. And you still have a month until you get back to that product cycle.
Well, and that's a pretty important distinction too. I mean, you guys hand make darn near everything you sell. It's not like you can just get on the phone and order another set of, subframe connectors to be put on a boat from China. You guys are building these from hand, in your shop. So you've got to think about production from the very beginning, really.
Yeah. And we've been shifting that. We found some ways to get that production run faster. Now it's been a season in. We're really good. We're getting much better at this mill. We're becoming much, much better, because when we first started MMI, I truthfully knew how to like make things, small production runs, 10 at a time, 15 at a time. But they always say that one of the best breweries in the world was Budweiser, because they can make beer the same every time on these huge batches. And that's way harder than people realize. To make a great set of arms one time is kind of cool, but to produce it over and over and over, 50 sets at a time, by hand, and watch every tack weld, every bead, at some point you get to a point where you're like, you get like frustrated with yourself that you're not keeping up with all these customers, and you don't go to work saying, yeah, gee whiz, I want to take forever.
Mhm.
But what you do, you find yourself tearing apart yourself, like saying, okay, I can send it out. I can get it made overseas. I can get this done over there. I can get that done over there. But then you hear your dad in the back of your mind saying, no, you got to be proud to make it. So rolling into another subject is who makes your product. And a lot of we've been kind of persecuted by business analysis, if you will, analysts, that you shouldn't make your product. It's not cost effective. You need to send it out and get all these things done. And one of the things that's happened is we've had a couple of other companies that we've dealt with that they've reached the end of their life cycle. So one of our suppliers, for example, who just resells product, they're a middleman. We've been going to them for years because old family friends. I mean, we can get it cheaper other places, but that's not really the end of the game. We want to support our family and friends around us. So we actually buy from this one supplier just because they've supported me for years. And they're going out of business, and that's a sensitive subject. Nobody knew it. And we were finding out that we couldn't get parts, like really basic parts that like bushings or something like that. We ran out of sway bars for months. And it turned out that it wasn't necessarily the manufacturer, it was our supplier. And what ended up happening was they were going through their own internal stresses, internal pressures. And that's something on a human level that's a tough one, you know. I don't know what that's like right now. I have an idea on some of those fronts, but we'd have complete suspension kits that we couldn't sell because we didn't have a sway bar.
Mhm.
You know, and I think we went 6 months trying to figure out what was going on, not willing to leave your wingman after 20 years.
Mhm.
You know, and then finally you find out. So now the last several months we've been transitioning into becoming more direct with all of our suppliers.
Mhm.
And then the other thing, going back to whether you manufacture it or not, everything we had in stock, if we had anything in stock, is what we made. And it turned out that our life's blood was in the inefficiencies of making your own product. So everybody says don't do it. You should be buying and reselling, but a lot of these buying and reselling companies are going out of business. A lot of these middlemen companies, the margins are getting so small with people hacking and slashing and undercutting that these businesses that we enjoyed, like buying things like trim pieces and grill pieces and gas caps, there's a bunch of middlemen that were trying to make their life's blood, and there's no money there. So those companies are kind of consolidating and going away. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what does that look like then for the guy working on his car, for the next year or two? How's that going to affect our ability to get suspension parts, our ability to get trim pieces, our ability to get some of that stuff that we need?
Well, when I left the old family business, I quickly gained value for what my dad did. My dad used to work till 9 o'clock every night. I spent all my childhood years down at the shop doing homework there, practicing my saxophone in the back office, Sundays, Saturdays. It was always at the shop. And when I left, I actually kind of I got mad at us as a community. I got mad at myself because I had a value for something I didn't have that fiberglass hood that I just wanted anymore. I didn't have that fender anymore. I couldn't just go to the shop and just grab it. And I started realizing everybody that would get really upset with Pops for not getting the product pronto to them. was like, nah, man, there was a 68-year-old dude hand making your 67 Shelby nose section that's going to go on your $250,000 car, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we, the people, didn't realize the value of those guys that were doing those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, it might take 3 months to get something, but this is a 50-year-old car,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or 60. So with this, with all these companies and what they're doing and these middlemen and trying to get the cheapest price, I think that there's a lot of companies that have been bought out lately. So I really think that we, the community, need to be supportive of our wingmen. You know what I'm saying? The people making the things for our craft, for our enjoyment, for our hobby, and really need to see that that's not more than just a shop with free shipping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's
It
people
seems
doing
like
a job.
it seems like the number of people who actually build what it is they sell these days is really, I mean, it's shrinking. And that's because of the cost, the time, the effort, the craft, frankly, involved in designing a suspension and building it from scratch. I mean, how many people can really even do that anymore?
Well, yeah, well, because um, I think what ends up happening is if you don't manufacture, if you don't build, um, I don't know, for me, it's a challenge. It's I'm not willing to settle. And I could have chosen to either install somebody else's suspension and just be an install shop, which a lot of people, I think we all want selfishly. Hey, I just want Mike to work on my car, but I'm going to get one dude at a time and I'm going to give him a marginal thing. So I think that, like I always say, every great race car driver's got some dumb in them. You ain't going to go into a turn at 100 miles an hour because you're thinking about stuff. And so some of those romantic things aren't the most intelligent. And building your own product isn't the most intelligent, but becoming a Super Bowl champion ain't intelligent for your brain injury. But I'll tell you what, some of these things that are volatile are some of the things that make you feel the most alive. And how do you want to choose your days? You know, how do you want to spend them? And I think that that's why we chose to do what we do. You get done with the day, there's a pile of badass parts there, you know, and you made them and you're not like everybody else. And you're feeling alive, good, bad, or indifferent every day. And then you get to see people get done with their product and drive their car and they're super amped about the results. That's pretty dope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I guess then, you know, if I were looking at ordering a new suspension today, I mean, what kind of delivery are you looking at? Are you looking, how does the current delivery compare to you know, what you've sort of come to expect as far as deliveries
Well,
go?
you know, it's different. So if you were to order, say, a Mod 2 from us a year ago, we would have said 1 month. That was our number. It was 1 month. Worst case scenario, 2 months, because we just had a lower volume of people, of customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it's going to be a legitimate 3 to 4 months at best, and that's given that this isn't a situation right now, but this is exactly how it goes. All of a sudden, you find out nobody can buy rod ends, and you're like, "What do you mean I can't buy rod ends?" I mean, we've called up companies, and from one day to the next, the turnaround time was like 2 days to all of a sudden 3 months. And we had a point in the middle of the season when we ordered spindles. We just put in our standard order. We had all these suspension kits on order, and we're like, okay, it's time to put a purchase order in for spindles. And so we ordered 15 sets of spindles or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we're not making those anymore. What do you mean you're not making spindles anymore? So we've been running into those things, like totally off the grid, didn't even expect it. We can go on and on with that. So what's the landscape of getting product? I think it's been 3, 4, 5 months. We're not willing also to cheapen up our product. We're not willing to send it somewhere and get it done in a really haphazard manner. So we're not willing to say, hey, I can get you this other thing super quick. It's all good. And then, is it as good? It's cool. That's not what we're about. That's not why you come to MMI. You come to MMI because you already had that experience somewhere else and you don't want that again. Or you heard about your buddy with that and you don't want that again. So if we cheapen it out, then that's not what we're about. That's not it. So I think that what's the landscape of ordering? When we get your job done, we move to the next job. And right now it seems to be about 3-ish months by our product cycle, by us making product, welding arms up as fast as we can, hiring people. We've hired 3 new employees. That's doubled the size of our business this season. We're looking at hiring more already. We're buying more equipment. So it's not like we're sitting on our hands. We've doubled our output. So it's not like we're making less product, but with double the output, you got double the orders, like purchase orders. Like we need to order twice as much steel. We need to order twice as many rod ends. We need to order twice as many boxes, twice as many bolts. So there's so many transitions in a business when you double your sales that the office just straight up needs to learn how to do.
Well, and I think too, I mean, one of the things that I know you and I have been working on is just trying to get a lot of resources online. We're trying to get things put on your guys' website that are going to be more self-service, that are going to help people so that they're not having to call up the shop and, try and get a hold of you and sit you down and say, well, how do I align this thing? Or how do I install this thing? I think that's a big focus for us over the next few months to try and get more of those resources online so that people understand, how these parts go in and how they work and how to set them up effectively.
Yeah, now it's a big thing. A large part of our product line is how to use it. I learned a long time ago, you can have a really badass kick-ass part and it's a complete pile because you don't know how to use it. Or you can have a moderate part and you really know how to use it. It's like the age-old adage of a kid that grew up with his .22 rifle can outshoot the guy with his scope and his 270. It's like, yeah, I bought the best thing that you can buy, and here's this kid plinking with an iron scope way better than I can shoot with my, it's the same thing with car parts. I think that if you know how to use it, customers get a way better experience. And so getting that information, teaching them how to use it, teaching them how to, giving them the resources, like you're saying in the website, to know how to do an alignment, sounds so simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
well, and the other thing too, I mean, I think we've sort of taken a look at how some of your products and things are structured. And I think one of the biggest examples of that is the introduction of packages. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what packages are and sort of how they work? You've got 4 of them on the site now. What is a package?
So actually, you really brought this to light for us, and it was really kind of I think you brought this to light, and then we kind of reapplied it. And what a package is, initially, I thought like a mod 1 was our package, and you kind of said no, it's more of a kit, right? There's a kit and there's a package. So the mod 1 front kit, the mod 1 rear kit, the mod 2 rear kit. And we started realizing that customers maybe who want a Coyote, but they're not looking to be a hardcore race car driver, might run a mod 2 front and a mod 1 rear because they want a clean car, but they don't need a full-on crazy rocker arm system. Or maybe someone going to the wine country on the weekend doesn't need a coilover at all. They just want a solid, clean system that he and his girl can drive, and his girl can drive, and she's comfortable. So we started looking back in all of our notes of the average systems, if you will, that we put together for customers. and we called it, you said, that's a package. A package is a mod 1 front, mod 2 rear, or a mod 2 front, mod 2 rear. And so we basically gave those packages or systems a name.
Mhm.
And I equate it, and we talked a lot about this, paralleling it to the bicycle industry, is if you walk into a bike shop and say, hey, I need a bike, and the dude brings out a little 16-inch girl's bike with pink tassels, and you're like, I was kind of thinking like I wanted to ride on dirt in hills.
Mhm.
The guy goes, well, why didn't you say you wanted a mountain bike? And our industry doesn't have that. Our industry, they might just call it pro touring, but it's way too general of a term. You know, maybe you want the pro touring look, but you don't need the pro touring dollar,
Mhm.
you know, or so we created our own packages based on the types of driving people are going to do, as like the types of bicycle riding somebody might do. You know, hey, this guy's a 10-speed guy, that guy's a mountain bike guy, this guy's a BMX guy. Whereas we have hey, this is the person driving their car to the winery. Hey, this is the person autocrossing. This is the person road racing. This is the person who's just an enthusiast that likes to rip on their car. So we've kind of assembled these systems to get these people to these places with less confusion. You know, it's like, hey, here's your checklist to get that done. And you don't have to buy them at once. It's more of a roadmap. Like, dude, just follow this list.
Mhm.
You'll have less of a mess in your life.
Mhm. And I mean, it's even more than suspension. It's brakes. I mean, it's the whole sort of recipe, if you will, to get you from where you're at to where you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many old guys I've talked to over the years that give you 4 different answers, you know, and you don't want to tell any old guy he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But this guy came from this angle, that guy came from that angle, and you want to listen to them all because they're OG. But at the same time, you got 4 different stories mixed up in your car, and none of them work together.
Mhm.
And it took me 10 years to get these little simple Willwood systems down. Now we've got customers calling us up like, holy crap, dude. I mean, like, no joke. I drove a customer car the other day, and I stepped on the brakes, and the car was done at another shop that they brought me the car just to look over it. And I got out and I looked for a vacuum booster. It was a manual system that we had sold the guy. And it even surprised me. I get on the brakes, and I had Dylan drive the car, and he was like, holy crap, dude. And so now that we've got these cars getting done, it's been, you know, because customer cars take years sometimes.
Mhm.
We got a lot of these customer cars getting done, and people starting to get feedback like, holy shit, dude. These things are like really stopping, not like sort of kind of.
Mhm.
And so these little systems, if you don't have the brakes, then it doesn't make the suspension feel good. If you don't have the steering, then the suspension doesn't feel good. So you have to give the customer the entire system, or the knowledge for the entire system, in order to make our product look good. You imagine riding a bike that doesn't shift gears, but you got a great shock on it.
Mhm.
You know, you'd never think about the shock because you're stuck in low gear. The chain's falling off all the time. I mean, it's such a way to dirty up your experience. So we gotta give the customer the complete system.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't think I've seen that done really anywhere except maybe at the OEMs. You know, you can buy a trim package, you can buy, whatever it is, clear on up the tier. It's kind of cool to see that applied to, classic Mustangs and to just classic cars in general.
Yeah, a lot of companies, they'll just sell a brake kit because they can take the part number from Willwood and just reapply it into their website. But I think that's where a lot of bad rap come from. A lot of bad rap comes from different product lines, is people just regurgitating part numbers on websites,
Mhm.
you know, and then, but the people behind the website actually don't know how to use what they're selling, and don't realize not necessarily the product isn't bad. It's the application of it and how it's used.
Mhm.
So that's a big thing.
Mhm. So we've talked a little bit about how the past few years have looked. We've talked about sort of what is going on now. what does the next couple of years look like for MMI? I mean, what are you guys working on? What are you building? What are you experimenting with? Tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
So we have some new suspension stuff coming out. I mean, that's always coming around to bend. But it sounds, dude, it sounds really boring. But I think we've got these packages, right? But it's now time to sit there and give the next generation to the same package. Things like, now that we're machining, we have way more latitude to change a production run halfway through and say, you know what, we've been making it like this, but like, remember what I said in the beginning, how the first 5 years was just creating all the things for a business. Like, I've got a mill, I've got a welder. Those were your first tasks. And at the same time, you made a product line, but you didn't per se have the time to sit there and really get after refining what your product line, even though our product was really, really good. But now we can drive it and go, you know what happens if we change the low speed rebound in the Mod 2 rear suspension system? What happens if we come back and we do this little tweak or that little tweak? What's that do for us? And those little tweaks take a car that's really cool and they make it on another level. Like, they make it really enjoyable. So I think that the machining processes that we've got and that we're going to grow into here soon are really going to give us the latitude to take our product line and do all those little tiny things that are just kind of ridiculously badass. Like different bearing combinations, sounds funny. Figuring out where to use ano here or there, and then what kind of looks we want and styles we want out of our systems. I think things like shaving weight and shock tower braces, changing steels. You know, back in the day, ERW tubing, nobody really said anything. It was just a shock tower brace. It was cool. But what happens if you use a certain kind of DOM? What happens if you use some chromollies in there? All these things are what take cars from cool to, wow, that's a freaking badass car. I think that that's really our goal, is to take our machining, our manufacturing, and use it super selfishly to create not only new product, but just refine the living piss out of what we got. So when customers do buy from us, it absolutely is the best. And you don't even have to tell anybody. They just look at it and they're like, dude, that's kind of legit.
Yeah. And so how does that roll out into your guys' racing program? You're doing a lot with New Blue right now, yeah?
So we've been bouncing back and forth between Old Blue and New Blue. One thing that we think is the new Mustang platform is really important. Actually driving multiple platforms. You have to drive multiple platforms. If you just buy from a company that only drives old school Mustangs, that company is going to get into a rut. And it's like when I was growing up, it's like the Shelby drop. That's what you do. It's a Shelby drop. It's a 4.5 leaf spring. That's what it is. And you're kind of like, no, I don't want just a 4.5 leaf spring anymore. I don't want just that anymore. But you got to get out of your circle, got to get out of your comfort zone, see what other guys are doing to understand what the hell's been going on with you, you know, to gain perspective. So driving New Blue, we're developing a lot of product for that. We're understanding that product. That's going to be a long-term goal for the next 10 to 15 years, you know, keep producing something for that platform. But if we don't drive that platform, it doesn't grow the early model platform. It's kind of a crazy thing. I drive as many cars as I can. I race as many cars as I can, because then I can go back and go, dude, this car was way better than our car in this specific attribute. Why? And then you just go down the rabbit hole of why, you know, and what it does, it forces you to find progress. And if you don't drive these other cars, if you don't go out and get humbled once in a while, then and you don't feel that burn, then you just become like everybody else.
Well, and what's cool is, I mean, you feel that burn. You guys have the ability to tweak and make changes now. You can, because you build it, because you manufacture it, because you CNC it. You've got the ability to make those sort of progressive changes and evolve the product line as you go.
Yeah, no, looking back at it, I had no reason, and then, honestly, I felt like an idiot when someone who's long ahead of you, who's financially stable, they've been doing good, and they look at you and they say, you're just a knucklehead for making it. And you kind of feel like a knucklehead for the next couple of weeks, like, I'm totally doing this wrong. But then you start seeing benefits like this. Then you start seeing people smile, and you start seeing people like really dig what happened. And then you see them tell their buddies, and then they come in, and it's starting to perpetuate. And then you start making these moves and these changes, and you have this power to make it better because you're making it. All of a sudden you start going, okay, it's not that they didn't know. It's just that maybe the subject wasn't in their wheelhouse,
And so, I guess, because we're going to have people watching this video who are curious too. We talked a little bit about the Mustang platform. What are you doing in other areas? Let's talk Falcon. Let's talk Fairlane. Is there some product development going on behind the scenes for some of these other cars?
We have had huge pushes for Falcon. Quite frankly, I thought I'd be further along. We have a new system for a front of these Falcons. It's like a kind of a badass front system that's in prototype right now. We actually have a Falcon Mod 2 for the sedans, 60 to 63 for sure. But there's so many different Falcon platforms that we jumped in like, oh yeah, we're going to do Falcons. And then there's 5 different platforms in 63 alone. And so you right when you make the subframe connectors, the X brace, the shock tower brace, all these things, a dude calls up and says, will that fit my convertible? No. Will that fit my Ranchero? No. How about my Comet? Comets are the same as Falcons. No. So we've done some Ranchero stuff now. We've done some sedan stuff. And then I think with all this huge surge of regular day-to-day business, that's bogged us down a little bit. And the progress that we've hoped that we would have honestly didn't happen as fast, just because we're trying to make as much product as we can. So that's not leaving as much free time for new development. But I think we're starting to catch our stride. We're starting to understand some things better. And I think it's gonna happen. And we're working on it. I mean, we've got prints in the office. We're keeping notes. We've got customers overly patient. So we're doing it. It's just one job at a time. And we're not willing to make each job faster for the sake of making it faster. And it's tearing us apart. Everybody in the office, everybody in the shop wants stuff done faster. But nobody wants to send out a product that doesn't feel right.
Well, it sounds like you guys are really on sort of the cusp of a lot of development, a lot of new growth. It just came at a weird time with COVID, but it sounds like these next few years are going to be really exciting for MMI.
Yeah, dude, I gotta say that there's an energy about us that's excited. At first we were scared to death. Now we're excited. You get angry in the shop when maybe you can't drip feed the CNC like you want to, and you spend an extra 3 days or 4 days trying to figure out how to get the freaking machine running. But once that product comes out and it's looking like you wanted it and it's badass, and then the machine starts spitting stuff out, this excitement comes over everybody. Having crappy anodizing come in and then resending it out and finding badass anodizers that call you and work with you and then seeing the product come back looking super dope. And then deciding you want something new in the middle of it. And then all of a sudden the code just goes perfect in the mill and you crank out a new product and it's like, dude, check it out. You know, there's so much like little buzz energy. It's kind of badass. Dude.
That's
There's
exciting
some
stuff.
pretty cool stuff going on.
That's super exciting. Anything else you want to add? Anything you want to tell everybody out there?
No, I know there's a lot of information here. I know there's a lot of stuff. I think the big thing is we don't wake up in the morning saying, let's see how slow we can go today. Every customer we legitimately talk to, every single one means a lot. Every single one is important to, it's funny, Dylan, to Brianne, to myself. And we have a hard time giving all that we want to everybody. And we hope that maybe in our inability to communicate as well as we want with everybody, that you can get that communication and just wonderful product. And that every time you drive the car, that's a way that we can show you that we care, you know, by making that product the way it is, not rushing it, not feeling the pressures of everybody saying now, you know, and trying to get back to a little bit of old world and saying, no, we're going to do it right. And it's going to be done more or less when it's done. And when it's done, it's done. Mm-hmm. I think that that's really something that we all have to hold on to and support our local business. It might take a little longer, but that community, that camaraderie, that understanding, it's something that's getting thin these days.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that I think the classic car industry is built on. We got to keep that flame alive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and with any of these companies building, you know, the more I get to know all these other companies, even competitors, the more I like them and the more I appreciate them and the things that they do really well. And the less I get customers calling up all the time, well, what makes your product better than that person? I'm like, actually, that dude's pretty cool. I mean, like, I kind of like that guy and he does a really good job. So I don't really want to sling anybody under a rock because they're making it, they're doing it, and they're not just taking the easy route.
Yep. That's awesome. All right. Well, guys, I will say this, we are all ears when it comes to improvements. If there are things you want to see, if there are things you want to hear, if there are things you'd love to see on social media, on the website, hit us up in the comments, shoot us an email, info@mikemaierinc.com. And we'd love to hear from you guys. Otherwise, Mike, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
A real insightful conversation. And yeah, thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.